Daily market commentary for Wednesday, the 23rd of October 2019. Quite the start to the week with all things Brexit taking centre stage and a somewhat mixed bag for the US earnings season. Yesterday saw a real roller coaster for sterling as the UK Parliament first approved Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit plan, but then almost simultaneously voted against his rushed timetable to push through Brexit before October the 31st. This saw sterling rally up to just over 130 at one point, but then fell very quickly down to 128.60 as the markets tried to digest what had happened and the potential impact. Euro also suffered, slipping down to 111.20 initially and then on to 111.05 against the dollar, and also falling down as low as 120.40 against the Japanese yen. Wednesday is once again beginning to look as if it's going to be all about Brexit. Although some mildly positive trade comments from China has risk sentiment turning positive early, despite some poor earnings from both Caterpillar and Boeing. To start the US day, we have euro dollar sitting at 111.20, dollar yen at 108.45, sterling at 128.70. Dollar CAD is sitting 130.90, Aussie US 68.45, and we have gold trading at 14.93. One thing Wednesday does lack, or did lack, I should say, is any significant data releases. So the focus will be on any market-moving headlines, and really to see maybe what the equity markets do and how they react to the slew of earnings. And the first move comes in yen crosses, with euro yen running from 120.45 up to 120.78, which was yesterday's real pivot level. A rally in equity futures appears to be been the main catalyst for that. And so as the equity markets open in the US, the Dow Jones is immediately higher by around about 100 points, which was surprising given the poor results from Caterpillar and from Boeing as well. This in turn took dollar yen up to a high of 108.66, but most other currency pairs were fairly subdued and barely moved 10 points either side of their opening New York levels. It wasn't long though before equities started to give back some of the gains, and we saw the Dow Jones falling to a low of around about minus 20 points at one point. But interestingly, the yen crosses all continued higher. We had euro yen breaking above the pivot level I mentioned before, 120.78, and ended up breaking back above 121 to almost touch yesterday's high at 121.05. We saw dollar yen up to 108.70 as well. No bad news, has sterling climbing back slowly to 129.20. All eyes really now on when the EU will reply to the request for an extension on the current Brexit situation. That response is supposed to come on Friday. Excuse me. And interestingly, that the FX should keep a positive tone when equities didn't. A little bit of divergence there, and towards the end of the US day, it's actually equities that end up playing a bit of catch up, with all three major US indices showing some modest gains. And given the negative sentiment at the end of yesterday and support earnings results this morning, today's moves definitely caught the market by surprise. Let's see if the positive tone continues into the weekend. One asset class that really did move today was crypto, which has been sort of a little quiet recently. Not too much to commentate on, so I really haven't. But today we had Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg was testifying to Congress about their proposed Libra cryptocurrency, which has obviously made a fair amount of headlines already. His opening remark was an interesting one. He said, "I actually don't know if Libra will work." Got to admire the man's honesty. You also have to admire the ensuing drop in BTC from 8,000 down to a low of 7,300, and as per usual, taking the rest of the crypto market with it. Given the crypto market has been in the doldrums recently, it desperately needs a major project to succeed. This was not what was needed, and we've seen a number of major payment partners that were associated with the Libra project putting out recently, and those comments he made today in front of Congress certainly didn't help the crypto market. and obviously not just his negative comments, but the overall negativity from the committee he was appearing in front of just set more of a negative tone. So a fairly hefty sell-off there, somewhat courtesy of Mr. Zuckerberg. Moving on now, just to a little bit of technical analysis to end the commentary today. One of the more volatile currency pairs over the past couple of sessions has been euro-yen. Being a yen cross, it's susceptible to reaction to changes in risk sentiment. It can also move sharply on headlines, such as we saw on Tuesday with the negative vote for the Brexit timetable. If you look at this hourly chart we have in front of us here, we have a pretty strong trend line here drawn in blue, starting around October the 9th, which came to a bit of a grinding halt yesterday. Had a good run. The question you ask when that happens is, well, it's busted back down through the trend line. That's the end of it, right? It's not going to go up anymore. And the answer is no, not necessarily. We could just be taking a pause. And today's price action has actually been quite constructive. As you saw yesterday, I mentioned this in the commentary, this little line here, a little pivot, which just means it's held a couple of times and then broken through and then tried to go back up again and failed and then dropped down, and then today we broke back above it. But the fact we've sort of come back up and broken back above that line and held some more sort of sustainable support here just below 120.40, from a technical perspective is somewhat bullish. This trend line here in blue is now of no real relevance at all, and now we're looking for some other indicators. So even though we did have a reversal and a bit of a sell-off here, the fact we have bounced back up and held this support here, I think is significant. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward towards the end of the week. As I mentioned, we've seen it is susceptible to Brexit comments, even though obviously sterling isn't necessarily involved in this. Euro is, and it will react. So be interesting to see how this one develops. And with that, I shall end this commentary and wish you all the very best of luck. Hope you had a good day trading, and look forward to speaking with you soon. Cheers.